In the league's 50th anniversary, your Wheat Kings are the champions.
Welcome back to episode number 6 of We Are Brandon. Today, I get to sit down with the police chief, Wayne Balcean. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. Now, the interesting thing about this episode for me is everybody we've talked to before, I've had a little bit of a connection to, and this is the first guest that is brand new to me. So I'm going to learn a lot. I'm really excited about that, and I do definitely appreciate you taking a little bit of time and sitting down with us here. So just kind of recap, all of this is more of a fireside type of conversation. It's just easy questions to get to know you a little bit better so people of Brandon can know you just a little bit better in that. So how long have you been living in Brandon?
Well, I turned 50 this year, and the first 3 to 4 years of my life was outside of Brandon. My dad was with the military, so I was born in Winnipeg, and he was deployed to Germany. And my mother and I and my brother stayed in Winnipeg until I was 6 weeks old, and then we traveled to Germany and lived there for the first 3 years of my life, and then came back to Shiloh where he was assigned.
Yeah.
And then we ended up buying a house in Brandon when I was 4, and so all of my schooling and developmental years have been in Brandon.
Okay, perfect. So what, growing up in Brandon, what's been your favorite part about living in the city?
You know, for me, Brandon is a city but a large town. And I say that because people are so familiar with one another. It doesn't take long. I can go to a local sporting event or one of the shopping places and meet people I haven't seen for months or years, or people that I liaise with daily. And you get to know so many people. And for myself, I've lived in the Green Acres area all of my life.
Yeah.
And I see that as a community within the community. It's such a great area. When I was growing up, I know neighbors watched over me as a kid. Well, we had our younger kids there. We watched over our kids and the neighborhood kids, and now I can see that happening again with the next generation. So it's a very tight community, not just where I live, but the city as a whole.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that because Jen and I came from Calgary, 10 years ago already now. And that was the biggest thing I saw coming back is it's a small enough community, you know most of the people, but it's big enough you still have a bit of your own privacy and can do your own thing in that. So it's great that way. But growing up and stuff, did you always kind of, it's a two-part question, dream of being a police officer, and how long have you been a police officer for, been involved with the police in that for?
Okay. Policing, I have been involved since 1990. That's when I got hired here. So this is my 28th year in policing. And has it always been a dream? I think growing up, I can remember back into junior high and high school thinking that, yes, I wanted to be a police officer. And a lot of this was because my mother worked for the RCMP as a civilian member for 30 plus years. And my dad being with the military, but I have uncles and aunts and cousins that are in both the RCMP, Winnipeg Police, Edmonton Police. So I had a very big grounding with the policing. And that kind of drove me to get into policing, and I ended up going to Lethbridge, went to Lethbridge Community College and graduated from there in their law enforcement program, and then applied here and was fortunate enough to get hired in my hometown.
That's pretty cool, yeah. So it's good. You had a long history of policing, and that's pretty interesting. Every day you wake up, what kind of drives you to make you your best self, or make you a little bit better each day?
You know, I think it's the fact that in this position, I took it on as a leadership role and to serve this community. Yeah. From the time I started as policing, you know that it's to serve your community and to make sure that you're doing what's best for the people that you serve. So that's what drives me, to make sure that we're progressing, that we continue to move forward in the policing sector within the city and work with all of the different departments, government agencies, non-government agencies, and really it's become a driving force now to have partnerships and commitments within the organizations to work together so that we're not duplicating services and so that the citizens are getting the best bang for the buck.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, looking back on your career and stuff so far, what do you feel has been kind of your greatest career accomplishment as of today?
Well, I obviously have to say becoming the chief. That has been overwhelming for me. I'm honored to be able to serve as chief and to work with such a great staff of people that I get to work with day in and day out. There's been a lot of memorable accomplishments throughout my career. Two kind of highlights, three highlights that I can think of. The first one is I got to be part of the secondment to the 2010 Winter Olympics.
Okay.
And that was a fascinating assignment for 5 weeks. I was assigned to the sliding center and got to do policing, and I believe there was over 200 different policing organizations that were involved in that. So met a lot of great people, a lot of other police officers, and just had that different experience.
Yeah.
Another one was, I go back to the 1990s, late part of 1990s. I was part of a operation where we did major drug investigations here in town. It was called Project Boomerang. It was my first step into major crime investigations, and just learning the processes of doing major crime and investigations of high-level drug dealers and all of the involvements there was a highlight for me. And probably one that I remember to this day, and it's probably my most satisfying, is it was a simple call about a minor motor vehicle accident. And again, I believe this was either late 90s or early 2000s. And I got dispatched to the office for a accident. I spoke to the gentleman. I can still remember him being there. It wasn't as I said, it wasn't a major accident, no injuries, just they had to report it at the time. And just noticing that he was very nervous, sweating, getting anxious, and he started to have some labored breathing, and I said, "There's something not right here, sir. I need to bring you to the hospital." And he was reluctant to go. He said, "No, I'll just go home. I'll just have a sleep." So I basically brought him into my car and made a very quick trip to the hospital and called it in. He was having a massive heart attack at the time. So I think the actions that I took that day and recognizing it benefited him. And he's still in the community today, and I see him, and we acknowledge our friendship and what has developed because of that.
That's pretty cool. That's got to be one of the highlights of getting into this type of a role, is having that positive impact in that. So since becoming the chief of police and that, has there been any one type of thing that's really stood out as a highlight since taking this role on in that?
For me, it has to be my first budget year.
Yeah.
That's something as a department head for departments is we're responsible for our budgets, and it's quite a lengthy process. We start our budgeting process right about this time of the year. So here we are in March, and we've sent out our request to all of our staff to look at budgeting for 2019 and 2020. So we're planning not only a year in advance, but 2 years in advance, and trying to project and determine what our needs will be, both staffing, equipment, and trying to predict that and put it together, bring it before council. Now obviously the police service and protective services in general take up a big percentage of the city budget, so we're very mindful of that and trying to do the best we can with the dollars that we're given, making sure that they stretch a little bit further than what we have for the dollars, making sure that we're using them sensibly.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was a big undertaking because I'd never done that before. Huge learning curve, but very successful. Council accepted our police board, first of all, accepted our proposal and moved it forward to council, and council accepted it as well. So for me, in this position, that has been one of the biggest processes that I've been through.
Yeah, perfect. So I can only imagine how at times stressful this position can be for you, whether it's previous roles within the police, but or especially now being the chief of police and that. So when you get home at night or you get a week off or something off, what do you like to do to kind of get away, recharge, relax? Kind of what fuels you a little bit on your own time?
Well, I really enjoy spending time with my family, although my kids are adults now.
Yeah.
We still get together and we'll have a supper or talk about life events. We also, my wife and I, enjoy reading. Both of us like to dig into books and read a lot. But if I have more than just an evening, if I have a weekend or a week, you'll find me camping somewhere or fishing. Something I've really enjoyed over the years, and it's an area where it's just yourself and being able to have some silence and quietness. And up at our place, we have a place up in the Duck Mountains. There's not a lot of cell service there, so it's not the phone constantly ringing and texts and everything else. So I just enjoy the quality time to be outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the one kind of staple question we ask at the end of every episode is, Jen and I always try and give our kids the lessons to take forward in that. And looking back on everything now, if there was one lesson you could give to the youth of today, what would you tell them? That's
an interesting question, Ryan. I would say that don't ever give up on your dreams. This was something that I had envisioned doing, not being the chief, but just becoming a police officer. And it takes a lot of work. Put your nose to the grindstone and go after what you want. Today's youth have so much opportunity. It's such a global experience now. I used to think very myopically with Brandon and area, but with the internet and with everything else, the power of electronics nowadays, the world is your oyster. So don't just think here, think globally, but we'd love to see people stay in Brandon and develop Brandon further, because it's an excellent community. It's a very safe community. It's a very inviting community. So follow your dreams and go after what you want, and you'll be successful.
Awesome. No, that's a great message for everybody, no matter what stage of life they're in, to continue to follow their dreams in that. So that's kind of it for episode 6. It's I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better. I hope that people at Brandon enjoy it as well. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well. Absolutely. And we'll see you again next month, guys.